So today we're working on one of my three-wheelers. It's an 84 Honda 200M. Specifically, we're working on tires. This bike probably sat for 15 or 20 years before I brought it here to my house and got it running again. This front tire held air that entire time, and then I drove it around the yard a few times, and overnight it went flat. So we're going to figure out what's up with that. And the sidewall on at least one of the back ones is completely trashed. I don't have new tires, but I do have replacement tires that were given to me. They're almost bald, but they're not. But the sidewall is still intact, so it's better than what I have on it. For the budget that I'm putting into it right now, it's perfect. So I think I'll start with the back ones. I'll get those off and get them on the machine. Probably only going to take one off at a time. It's on the stand and it's not balanced real well. Gotta say, for not being off in 15 years or so, that went pretty easily. Right, first thing I'm going to do is make sure that all the air is out of this. Because even though the sidewalls are trashed, they actually do hold air because there's tubes in them. Which is going to make my job a little bit difficult here. Because I would really like to use my tire machine, but then I really got to watch so I don't hit the tube. I'll loosen up the nut just so I can get that tube pushed down. This particular tube has just a double nut set up. Tighten one to hold the stem, you tighten the second one to keep the stem tightened, I guess, and in place. So, get the first nut off of there, and the second. Probably should paint these rims while they're off, but I know me pretty well, and I'm probably not gonna. Stem unhooked, and I pushed it in there. That's just so wherever possible, I can push this tire all the way down. Anything I can do to try to not hit the tube is a good idea. Okay. Get it on the bead breaker down here. Use my bead breaker here. The best thing to have for this thing. Go down to the other side. Okay, the beads are off. Now, most people would have to use the tire spoons and such, but I got spoiled having this tire machine. Those rims will not fit on there. So I got creative with my welder. I built this thing. That's an old trailer rim and a brake rotor. So basically I put this on here, and I have to manually line it up. It doesn't center itself. First time I ever had that problem. I have to get something a little bit bigger than this to go on there. So as soon as I find that, I'm going to try to inflate this tube and see if it is any good. I have my doubts. it is holding air, but the valve stem itself has a little metal insert where it goes, and that's actually rotted. And looks like it's actually kind of, where that goes on, it's glued, it has its own patch, and that's actually peeling up in one spot. So it is holding air, but I don't think I'm going to use it. Which means I'm going to have to wait at least a couple days before I can actually get another tube here. It's probably for the best anyways, though, because I think I'm just going to spray some paint on that. Well, I went into my stash of spray paints, and I found the two ugliest colors I could find. One is a really old can of Rust-Oleum. It's almost like a pinkish gold, I don't know. The other one's this weird blue-gray thing. I don't even know if either one of these cans is going to work. They were sitting outside for a couple of years, a couple winters. I'm sure it's fine. Still sprays. Oh yeah, that's exactly as ugly as I thought. There it is. Horrible. I was going to do one tire at a time, but since I'm on hold, I guess I'll get the other one. And same thing with this one. Pull off the valve core. This one actually still has air in it. The other one had a little bit of air, but it wasn't, I wouldn't have called it inflated. Either this core is really loose or I'm slipping. I was slipping. There we go. Unscrew the valve stem. Once again, these have tubes in them. Get a different view on that feed breaker for this one. Usually, these are made for taller tires, so you actually have to kind of hold it up. This one doesn't sound as crunchy. It's a good sign. Always keep your hands out. Yeah, this one sounds a lot better, so I have much higher hopes for this working. All right. We'll get it all mounted up. Like the other side, I'm going to get that tube out. It's actually stuck to the inside of the tire. Kind of peeling that out. Also deflating a lot more air. This tube looks like it might be in a little better shape. I'll put the valve core back in. I'm going to inflate it, check it over, and let it sit here while I'm messing with the rest of it. Okay, this one appears to be a lot healthier. Even still, it's a lot more, black, like it's actually made of rubber. Whereas the other one almost looks like rubber's rusting. Welcome to Michigan, I guess. Yeah, we're gonna let that one sit aside while I'm doing this. But at this point, I think that one's probably gonna live. This rim looks a whole lot better too. This would work a lot better if I would bring this back over. You're never supposed to let go of that, by the way. If you're using a tire machine, it could pop and fling. Okay. This tire is off. Honestly, this tire is in better shape. It's still garbage. I don't know how well this will show, but this is all cracked up pretty deep. So that tire is also bad. A little bit of lighter rust on here, but this one will actually survive. These are directional. First one doesn't matter as long as I remember on the second one. Now, because I only have one tube, I'm going to try to put this on as a tubeless. So I'm going to put a stem back in the rim. And I'll probably have to use the one good tube, which is still behind the camera over there, and it's holding air just fine. Oh, this is going to be a pain. I'm going to have to actually unstrap it from this, otherwise I can't reach in there to get the valve stem. I don't really know that I want to do that right now. Okay, the valve stem usually would go in right now, but I can't access it. I will be able to reach through the tire and feed it in from the back. So we'll get back to that part. In the meantime, throw the tire on. So over this way. These smaller tires are a lot harder to do even with this adapter. It's just not made for it. There's one. Okay, I'm going to kill the sound in my camera, so it's going to be quiet for a minute, but I have to fire up the air compressor again. Okay, now I have the valve stem. I just unscrew the cap, set that aside. You could put a little bit of lube on here. I never do. It's always been fine so far. Then you get one of these little multi-tools, or really anything that will thread on to the end of this. I'm going to stick this in from the inside of the rim. Then I'm going to screw this on and use it to pull. I dropped it. This is absolutely easier to do before you put the tire on, but I didn't want to unhook it because I have this contraption. My hand may or may not be stuck. Okay. Okay, so valve stem's through. Now I'm screwing that little tool on it. Just till it's snug. Just grab. Sometimes it helps to kind of do a rotating motion to work it around. When it's through, you will feel it pop, which I did. Okay, so that is now on. Now I'm going to remove the core out of that valve stem, and that's going to help me when I go to seat it onto the bead. Now, just because this is an old tire and old rim, none of it's really in great shape. I'm going to put a little bit of bead sealer on it. It's debatable whether or not I need to, but I'm gonna. It's gonna make me feel a little better about it, especially because being on an ATV, these are really low pressure tires, and it wouldn't really take much to make it come off the bead. We're having a little bit of trouble with that. It doesn't really want to seat onto either bead. A couple things we can do. First thing is I just have a bucket sitting down here. Just a bucket, nothing special. It's going to hold the rim. I'm just going to push downward on the tire. Just to kind of help it sort of seat into that. That's just so it's less likely to leak air around that bottom because I just pushed the tire down. I might still have to modify it here. I also switched from my tire machine to just a standard air hose. The air hose without a fitting, if you shove that onto a valve stem with no core in it, should fill pretty quickly. So the more air going in at once should pop it up. Even though it's going to leak a little bit while I'm seating the bead, it's going to supply it with so much air it won't really matter. Alright, so I do have the bead started out there, so it's not just all leaking out. Now I'm just filling it a little bit. You don't want to fill it too high, especially these are low pressure tires. The bead is on most of this, but you fill a little bit more and eventually it's going to pop and it'll scare the crap out of you. And I kind of would prefer a tire gauge here. Oh, we're only at 12, never mind. Usually they say not to exceed like 30 or so when seating beads. 7 psi operating. Do not exceed 30 is what these ones say. About 14 now. A lot of times you can see the tire start to creep on the bead a little bit. But even though I know it's coming, I'm still probably going to jump. It's a fun little game. See what my pressure's at. Still only about 15. I keep checking the pressure. It's really not something you want to play with. If this tire exploded right now, it would cause some serious injury to me. Looks like the back still has to go on the bead some too. Oh, one just went a little bit. I heard it. That was the back. The back just popped out on its own. Now the camera probably... Okay. Well, we're good. As it sat there, it seated itself. So, no issues there. We're all the way on both sides. It appears to be holding air. Let's spray a little bit of water, that's all I have in here, around the bead and see if it bubbles. And no bubbles there. Nothing around the valve stem. Okay, this paint that I put on the rim is actually dried overnight. Looks horrible, it doesn't matter, it's on the inside. One thing I like to do for anything I'm putting a tube on, I like doing it anyways, and then this one here still has some rust. Even though it's not nearly as sharp since I cleaned it, I'd like to cover it with something to protect the tube. I like electrical tape, so this one I do have to watch a little bit more for my directional tires, because the other one I've already done. This one has the valve stem side facing up, which I should. I'm going to double check that. Yes, valve stem side is facing up, and it will be driving that way. So it goes on like that. I'm going to throw a little bit of lube up on it. I didn't put the other one because I was putting the bead sealer on. Sometimes it interferes. So that was the easy part. But now I got to get the tube into there and then not hit it when I do the rest. Sat overnight and my tube is still inflated and looking good. I don't know where my tool went. There it is. So, first thing I'm going to do is completely deflate this. Pour out, squeeze it, get it as flat as I possibly can. Might take a minute. I'll bring it back in when it's flat. I've gotten all the air out of this, it's flat. You do want to take note of which side the valve stem's on. Sometimes they're right in the center. Usually they're slightly off to one side or the other. Just make sure it goes on the rim the appropriate way. In this case, mine needs to be up, and I've already checked and made sure that it is. So we got to shove that into here now. Let's find my valve stem again, or where the hole is, I mean. There it is. Now, ideally, you would want to reach through and put the nut on the valve stem. And I'm going to try, just so it can't flop in there. Okay, and I was able to. I wasn't sure with the way I had my clamp. Then, I'm going to push the tube down as far as I can. Honestly, it looks like it's going to work out perfectly. I'll do this. I am going to kind of just slowly inch it around. Now make sure that tire stays into the V-groove of the rim. Okay. Then just kind of go around and make sure your tube's not pinched anywhere. At this point, the two options are it's perfect or I ruined the tube. And either way, I don't have another tube except that bad one from the other side that I'm not going to use. I find that just having this table right here is a really easy way to do all this. Definitely no hope, or no chance of pinching a tube on that side. And I don't think we're going to have a problem on that side either. So now, I'm going to tighten up that first nut on the valve stem, just to basically bring the tube out into the position it's going to have to live in. I don't want to inflate it and have it all get positioned one way, and then bring it up there. It might stretch it unnecessarily. And keep in mind I'm using a 25-year-old tube, so it'll take a few seconds here before it actually starts filling enough that I notice. Okay, right there I just started seeing the tire come up. I'm going to check the pinch tube again. Not going to be an issue. Every time. I know it's coming, still makes me jump. Okay, it's not actually going to pop this time. It's slowly moving itself over. And just right there, I think we're actually good. So I'll get those back on. Okay, now I got to see why the front's leaking. Like I said, this one held there while it sat for 15 or however many years. It was at least 15. Then I rode it around a little bit, and then it actually had trouble. It is on here backwards, like the valve stem is hiding back there behind the brake drum. So that's super inconvenient. So while I have it off, I'm at least going to flip that. It's been a minute since I took these off, but if I remember correctly, need new boots too. If I remember correctly, you had to loosen these 4, granted only 2 of mine are still here. These 4 nuts over here, and then you unscrew the actual axle from the other side. I don't really have the utmost confidence that those remaining 2 are going to actually loosen. Well, they did, so that's cool. Let's see what size the end of this is. Stuff like that's usually a 17. It might be a worn out 17. That's not the right side. Or it might be a damaged 16. I think I'm going to try the 17 on it. Just kind of go carefully. No, that's going to slip. I'm running low on hammers, so. Well, the 16 will go on it with force. Okay, so the problem is just that it's rusty. I pounded it out of there a little bit more. There it is. Yep, just rust, which is bound to happen over time. Okay, the brake drum should just pull off. It's having trouble because of rust. I think I might get some WD-40 or something. Okay, so I just kind of sprayed everything. That, spray a little more. Then just keep kind of working with it until it actually moves freely. That went better than expected. I think I want to pull this axle right out of it. Well, maybe I'm not. It doesn't really want to. And I'm not really going to push the issue on that because it's not that important. Next step, I'm going to unbolt the rim from that center hub. Gotta grab these nuts off off of here before they just fly into the abyss. And remove the hub. Set it aside. This actually has a tube in it. And some cracks I didn't see before, but we're just going to ignore those. So just like we have been, get the air out, get the stem out, etc. Alright. And speed breaker and then back on the machine. Okay, I think we know the drill by now. Well, bad news on that one. This tube is garbage. Seems to have decent rubber, but it's actually ripped. I don't know if you can even see it, but it's ripped right here at the valve stem where it goes in. There's really a half-cocked ways of fixing that, but no, that tube is garbage. So I guess I'm sourcing something new. Come back when I've got it. So I went and bought a brand new tube. Bought it from Tractor Supply. It's kind of pricey there, $33. But it does feel like a real nice thick rubber tube. It says heavy duty, but then again, so does everything else. But I actually believe it with this. It's pretty decent. So there's a little metal washer that actually goes on here. That will go on the inside. My tire is, of course, still there. I'm going to feed this in. Basically, I take that washer off at first. Other than avoiding sharp stuff, there's not really any great procedure for this. Just avoid the sharp stuff and put it on there. Usually it will fit a little bit tight. That's in. I'm putting that washer back on the stem. Then I'm going to try to reach through here, if I can, and put this nut on there just to hold it. Really, it doesn't have to be completely tightened down. I'm just making sure that the stem can't fall back in. Now I'm going to put my device back. Hopefully it didn't move. Of course, the chances on that luck here are about the same as the chance of me finding the Loch Ness Monster in my bathtub. I am going to lube up this bead a little bit. Just carefully get it mounted. The trick here is just don't pinch the tube. I don't believe I pinched it. Take my device off. Make sure that my tube's not going to get pinched anywhere. Nowhere near this side to bead. And it's nowhere near that side to bead either. Now we just fill the tire. Hypothetically, this should go pretty smoothly. This side's about to pop. Onto the bead. Good pop. Didn't pop, just kind of glided into place. Now we just got the other side. So just like earlier, I'm going to switch back to this just because it has the gauge on it. It's almost there. I'm only at 12 psi. And that's what we needed. That's on the bead. Now let's lower it down to a realistic pressure. We're down to about 8. That's good enough, at least for now. Technically, it's still too high for what we're doing, but it'll be fine. Not real worried about that. Get to put the hub back in it. Of course, we're doing it the reverse of the way we took it out. The way we took it out was wrong, and it actually prevented you from adding air with this thing installed. Because the brake drum was in the way. I might see if I can get those broken studs out while I have it all apart. That one's coming out like nothing. I can still assemble this. I mean, it's been like that for years with only 2 holding it. So I'm going to assemble it today with 2. And then just, I know they're M6x1 studs. I'll get a length off of them. Now, the brake pads in this thing are very worn out. You know, where I should totally replace them. This is a 3-wheeler, and it doesn't need those. Well, it's going to go just like this. That pin goes up into there, and then that has to line up with that.
Okay.
But it has to go on there first.
Has to go in there first. Okay. Is there any way to like get onto there? Or is it just gonna just
That
chill
is what
like
it
that?
does.
Okay.
Because basically, I mean, that's how the brakes work. Well, that's how they would work if it had brakes.
Gotcha.
I already told the camera that. It's like, I'm not putting brakes on it, because if I do, then the other 3-wheelers will make fun of it for being different. It seems fairly promising. Tighten that in. I might even do it manually at first.
Yes, it is spinning.
Is it going closer to you?
Yeah, it looks like it is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it is.
We're good.
Stop
Now I'm getting
spinning.
the impact. So I got that axle, it screws in, and then this here sort of locks it and holds everything. I've only got the 2, but like I said, it's been like that for years, and I rode this thing around for years like that. So let's knock my socket off of there. So I had to hammer it on earlier. I should just replace the axle, but I'm not. It's fine. Really, that's only going to matter when I have to remove the tire. So that's a problem for future me. I don't like that guy. So I guess I should probably hook my brake cable back up. But since the brakes don't work anyways, and the cable doesn't work any better than brakes do, I think I'm just going to remove it.
Well, that's one thing.
There's actually a broken piece in it. This front brake is like it is broken in every way that it could be broken.
All the brakes. But no brakes.
Yeah, I'll have you know this has brand new rear brakes. Yeah, I'm just removing this thing entirely because, like, the lever is broken. The little adjuster up here is broken. The cable is seized. The pads are bad. These are bent.
It's just a whole mess of things.
And it's on a vehicle with a top speed of like 30, so I think we'll be okay. I rode this thing around a lot as a kid without brakes at all. Okay. Back tires are both probably overinflated. I could adjust that if I really felt like it, but I don't. been a long time since this thing's actually had good tires on it. They are overinflated a little bit, and I know that because I set them a little bit high, kind of on purpose. Figured I almost assumed that the rear ones would leak. The front one I knew wasn't going to. I just didn't feel like letting any more air out of it. It definitely lands pretty hard because this is one of the ones. It has front suspension, but it's a hardtail, and those ones are probably both at like 20 psi right now. But ultimately, got tires on it. This one's back running, back in business. If you liked it, remember to like and subscribe.